Welcome to this introduction for the Vocabulary Builder series. What I'm going to do is launch a new set of modules completely focused on building your vocabulary. At the moment, what we have is a lot of raw structure, meaning we have different verb tenses, pronouns, bits and pieces of glue, and concepts in Spanish. So what we need to do is now decorate that raw structure with vocabulary, but not just any kind of vocabulary. It needs to be high frequency vocabulary. To do this, we're going to work our way through hundreds of texts that I've custom written and packed full of high frequency vocabulary and useful phrases. In this way, we're going to activate this raw structure that we've built and develop it into genuine conversational fluency. It's important to realize that you won't see results right away. Doing 1 or even 10 of these texts isn't enough, and it won't make that much of a difference. It's only when you go through hundreds of these texts that over time you'll start to notice a change in your Spanish. That's because you'll be coming across the same words, the same structures, verbs, the same combinations of pronouns, the same types of glue. These things are going to repeat themselves over and over again. And this is where the real power lies, because what that effectively means is that you'll be learning the same core lessons over and over again until it really sinks in and becomes a natural part of your Spanish. So, in the beginning, expect it to be slow, but the more of these texts that you work through, the more momentum you'll start to pick up. And that's a key word there, momentum. Your Spanish will really start to accelerate into conversational proficiency. The method that will follow is to first look at the Spanish text itself, and we'll compare it to the English translation. From there, what we want to do is grab as much vocabulary and glue as we can. It's kind of like picking fruit from a tree. From there, you're going to make a list of that vocabulary and that glue, and you're going to learn it. Then you'll go back and test yourself, this time looking at the English side of the text and trying to translate it back into Spanish. And this is something we'll do and repeat on a regular basis. It's important to have the right attitude when going through these modules. It's not about being perfect. The winning formula comes from doing hundreds of these texts plus doing them over time. That will actually give you very good Spanish. So it's much better to get, say, 60% right of 100 texts than it is to get 100% right of 10 texts. So this is the type of attitude, the correct attitude that I would like you to adopt. As we do this, one thing you'll soon discover is that having verbs and structure and concepts gives you a lot, but it doesn't give you everything. Because there's a lot of little moving pieces, little moving parts in Spanish. Little things like a, de, en, and se. There are also a lot of common phrases and sayings that are different in Spanish in small ways. For example, in English we'll say, "I'll see you at the party," whereas in Spanish it's more common to hear, "I'll see you in the party." These are the types of fidgety little bits that will catch you out. It's like looking inside of a watch where there's lots of little moving parts that really have no literal translation into English. Now, this is most likely where you'll make the majority of your mistakes, and that's completely normal. The good news is that you'll still be perfectly understood. It's just that the more Spanish text that you're exposed to, the more you try to translate and to do, the less of these kinds of mistakes you'll make. As I mentioned before, it's all about doing lots of these little texts over time. One final thing to mention is that going through these texts is going to expose the remaining gaps in your Spanish, and I'll point these out when they crop up. It's things that we will need to feel in level 10.